Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Nero! Thank you everyone, thank you. Yes, it's an exciting day. We are here to rank the list, game of the year basically. It is an exciting time for everyone involved, the millions watching around the world at home. We are here to rank the list. Thank you. No, settle down. No, the crowd are going crazy. The thousands in the audience are going wild. Now, it's a big night. We have millions of awards to go about. It's one. We have so many AAA massive game announcements. You won't believe how many. Hideo Kojima is he... What? Oh. Are you kidding? Okay, so it turns out it's just one guy on the internet's list of games and there's no announcements, but that's fine. That's fine. We'll get on with it. It turns out Kojima couldn't make it. Sony couldn't give us any trailers for any new games. It really is unfortunate. But what we do have is one dedicated loser's list of every game he has ever played to rank and review today. Before we get to the main course, of course, there is a few smaller categories we need to get through. But before we do that, let's just officially welcome you all to the first annual Game of the Year, aka Ranking the List 2024. We did it, y'all. Who knew we'd get here? Anyway, for those of you who don't know, let's move on. For those of you that don't know, this is the list. I've built this my whole life. This is a table of games that I want to play, that I own. This is my back catalogue, this table here. If I want to play it, if I own it, if I buy it, it gets added to this table. And this table is essentially my back catalogue. This is my cross to bear. If a viewer buys me a game, which they've done, if I buy myself a game, if a game gets added to Game Pass and I want to play it, it ends up on this table. Now, that's just admin. What we really want is the list down here. Since 2013, I have been keeping a detailed list of every single game that I beat. And I beat a lot of games. It is a disease. But nonetheless, we have been keeping this list for a long, long time. And now that we've started streaming, we are going to take the first gear of streaming's games. That is, wait for it, we're getting there. That's 2024's games. And we are going to rank this list. It's pretty straightforward. I've been keeping this for years and years. So we figured, why not rank the list? So we got a few categories to get out of the way first. First and foremost, comfort food. The list every single year has games that are on there over and over again. Games that are so special to me that they are on the list every year, and therefore they're not gonna be on the list, okay? They make the admin list, they make the list, as you'll see there. Final Fantasy 1 is on there multiple times. And spoiler alert, it's on every other previous year we've ever had, okay? So for that reason and that reason only, we are not gonna use the comfort food games in the list when we're ranking the list, because if we did, every year it would just be the same games at the top of the list. These are my favorite games that I play. They might not be my all-time favorite games, but they're the games we play every year or multiple times a year. So we want to give them a shout out because they're not going to be on the numbered list. And they are Final Fantasy, Final Fantasy 2, the Final Fantasy 7 remake, and the Resident Evil 2. That's actually the remake of Resident Evil 2, but these are games that we have on this year's list, but they are on the list every year. The Final Fantasy series, I'm obsessed with. I play these games constantly. They will always be on the list, and if we left them on the rankings, it wouldn't really be a ranking of games that came out. It would be a ranking of games and then all the Final Fantasy games on top of them. And nobody wants that, because it's going to be the same thing every year. So, these games here are fall in a category I keep called comfort food, which is just, they're going to be played forever and ever. And these are them. So each year, yes, they will be on the list, but they will not be involved in the rankings because it's just not fair. However, the reason we're shouting this out today is because a new game this year got added into the coveted comfort food category, and that is FTL. FTL is very special to me. We started playing this year and it was awesome. Here's footage of me playing it here. FTL is magical. We put it on for fun for one stream and I was sort of hooked immediately. And then the chat was really quiet. And I was like, maybe people aren't feeling this. And then someone said, I am completely enamored with what I'm seeing here. And I realized that they were feeling it like I was. This game is magical. It is as close to strategy as I'm probably ever going to get. It is a bit too much at times. But in terms of my new, my list of comfort food games that we will just be playing every year, FTL has made that list. So the Comfort Food Award, I guess. The Comfort Food Award this year, I guess, goes to FTL. It's not every year a game gets added to my comfort food list. It just isn't. But FTL has made it. It's a special game. So, next up, we just want to give a quick shout out to the games that unfortunately aren't going to make the list this year. We're doing an award stream, the annual. I'm wearing a tie. Oh yes, we're wearing a tie. We are ranking the list. It's a very special day. It's a very special day. So, a quick shout out before we rank the full list to Unfinished Stories. These are games that came out this year, the year of our Lord 2024, so last year I guess, that we started and didn't finish. We're gonna get to these. They will be on next year's list. But we just want to take a quick look at these just to shout them out. The first of which is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I am loving this game. This is maybe one of the most fun games I've played all year. And if we had finished this before midnight on New Year's Eve, I don't know how high up the list this would be. But on next year's list, all the games coming out in 2025, you better watch out, because this will be on my list next year because we didn't finish it this year. There's no chance of this not getting finished in 2025. This will be on next year's list. I loved Indiana Jones. And I am loving Indiana Jones. So, next up is Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. I don't have footage of me playing this, but Hellblade 2 is special. I love the first one to death. The first one is so amazing. It is maybe one of the best games about mental health ever. And the sequel I put on and was immediately blown away by the first chapter. And I was like, nope, I need to be in the right space for this mentally. I want to just close everything and shut it all out and put my headphones on and play Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. And that day never came this year, but it absolutely will. I adore this. I just need to be in the right zone for it. So that is going to be on next year's list, and spoiler alert, it's probably going to be pretty high up too. Now, next on the list is Kunitsugami Path of the Goddess. This is another game that came out this year that I played maybe 15 to 20 hours of. I've not rolled credits, so it has not been added to the list. I don't want to add it to the list if I've not beat it. I have to beat a game for it to go on the list. That is how it works. And Kunitsugami I haven't beat, but I'm close. And it is so much fun. It is the weirdest. It's bizarre. You're doing like strategy tower defense for the purposes of protecting this dancing girl. And then when she's dancing, it makes the road move. And you've got to make the road move so you can walk the road. But all the little weird demons that look like genitals are coming at. It's the strangest game ever made, and I love it so much. So again, the unfinished stories, the games that will roll on to next year, it's already a hot list because these three are great. Now, the next game on the list, one that is in danger of maybe not getting finished at all, is Stalker 2. Stalker 2 we played on stream for maybe around 10 hours. Maybe we played Stalker 2 for around 10 hours. And during that time, I fell in love with Stalker 2, but it became very clear it wasn't a stream game. It wasn't. A lot of the game, you are walking around brown environments, opening up brown boxes full of just like little bits, and you're going, oh, I wonder if this weighs enough to go in my inventory. I'll put these bullets here. It's just like micromanagement the game, and it's really hard, and it's really brown. Did I mention how brown it was? So I want to just play this off stream. I decided the last video of this we put up on YouTube was us saying, I give up with this. This isn't really for me, it doesn't feel like a game worth streaming. I could be wrong, but it just felt really slow and really kind of boring. So, but not boring in a bad way, boring in a way like, oh, I want to play this on my own for like 12 hours straight, kind of boring. So this will be on next year's list, but there is a chance, there's just a chance, because I don't love like first-person shootery type games, that this just might never make it. But we'll see. We'll see. Okay, so the last... No, that is all the unfinished stories. I was sure there was a... You know, I'm just going to double check that because... Yeah, there is one more. Where is that on the list? Let me see. Oh, it is here. It is here. I'm an idiot. Sorry. The last one is Nine Sols. This is a game that came out this year that people were going crazy about. A while after it had come out, people started to say, oh, have you heard about Nine Sols? Have you heard about Nine Sols? You know, people were comparing it to all of the great Metroidvanias of the world, you know? And so we had a go of it on stream, as you can see here. We played maybe 4 or 5 hours of this on stream, and it is fun, and it is so damn hard. This is one of the hardest games maybe we've played on stream ever. Maybe. This game kicked my ass. We fought the first boss for many hours, and we sort of just stopped there. A lot of other games got in the way. This hasn't been thrown to the side because it's bad or because it's, you know, anything. It's just a lot. There was a lot of lore. There was a lot of buttons. There's just a lot to take in, and we let it slip to the side. But it has made this list. It has made the unfinished stories list specifically because I know we will finish it this year and add it to the list in 2025. So that is the unfinished stories. The games that will be rolling on to next year's list. You can guarantee you will see all of these in next year's list. You can hold me to that. Clip this out. You can hold me to that. Well, maybe not Stalker, but we'll see. Okay, so next up, we want to give a shout out to our forever games. Forever games, for me, are the games that are just constantly on in my being. Like, when I wake up, I will just open a game on my phone. When I'm doing daily chores, there's just games on my phone. When I am doing anything, I've just got a game up on my phone. I am constantly, chronically addicted to video games. And that's why this category is called Forever Games. No, wait, what is that? Chronic video game addiction. I don't know about that. I don't know how that got in there. That's really weird. Okay. Weird. But these are forever games. These are the games I play on my phone all the time. I don't know why it says that. That's actually quite rude, if I'm being honest. But, you know, that's fine. So, if you watch the stream, you know that my forever games are 2 games. They are Marvel Snap and Hearthstone. I am addicted to these games like maybe like nothing else. Maybe like nothing else ever to these games. There is something so infinitely playable forever about Hearthstone. It is just so... I am always just building new decks and playing new games, and they're always adding game modes. Hearthstone is on all the time. So these forever games don't make the list. These games don't get put up on the... These are all the games we played this year, because in reality, these are just the games we play all year, every year, forever. And it wouldn't be right to add them to like, here's all the games I played this year, because even though they are without a doubt the games we put the most time into, without a doubt, these are the games I spend the most time playing. It's just, you know, it is just because of, because of chronic video game addiction. These games are just being played constantly. Now, as you know, as you may know, a few years ago, Marvel Snap came out and immediately got added to the Forever Games list. This is a game... There's me. There's my first ever stream playing Marvel Snap. My first ever stream. Go give that a follow. Give it a like or a button click, you know? Marvel Snap a few years ago dropped and it became the game. It was the first thing that came out that replaced Hearthstone as my, like, always playing game, my forever game. Marvel Snap is so fun, and it's made by the Hearthstone devs. It's basically, they tried to make... What if we tried to make a Hearthstone that anyone could get into? What if we tried to simplify Hearthstone down so much that it still has the complexity, it just doesn't have... It keeps it at the simplest language possible, like anyone can pick this game up and play it. And because of that, it is so unbelievably addictive. It is one of the funnest games. I play it every day. Marvel Snap, massive shout out to a forever game that got added a few years ago. Now, the reason we're showing the forever games is because the Forever Games Award this year goes to a game that came out and immediately became one of my forever games. And that is... Sorry, bear with me. That is Pokemon TCG Pocket. This game is awesome. It is a simplified version of the card game, or at least the combat is, but the main appeal is collecting. You know, it's all of the Pokemon that people like, the first 150. It's such a sucker, like, I'm such a sucker for that. It's so easy to manipulate boys my age with, like, remember the original 150 Pokemon? You're like, of course I do. It's like, who doesn't? So yeah, the Pokemon TCGP came out this year, and I wanted to shout that out because it is not often that a new game gets added to the games I just want to play constantly forever. But Pokemon TCGP has been added to that list, and it is awesome fun. I don't have any footage of me playing it on stream, but that's, you know, it's here, and it is amazing. Now, last up, let me get a little drink here. Now, the last category before we get to the main event, the ranking of the list. The last category is a rough one. It is a real rough one. And it is the I Can't Do This Anymore award. As part of making the list, I became chronically addicted to finishing games. I cannot start a game and not finish it. It is a real burden to bear, but it is true. I cannot start a game and not finish it. I have to see it through to the end if I've seen the opening. And because of that, I've played a lot of shitty games, right? Let's just be clear. Because of that, I've played a lot of shitty games. But the point I'm making is that because of that, it is extremely, extremely rare that I will get a certain way through a game and say, nah, I'm out. I don't want to play this anymore. But this year in particular, we had a handful of games that I got through, and at some point just was like, my time is more important than this. I am out. I'm done. I'm almost able to break the spell now of having to finish games, but this year was particularly bad. So let's give it up for the games that I found, for whatever reason, I could not drive myself through to the end. Whatever that says about these games, so be it, right? Let me be clear, before this year, I could give you the games I haven't beat on one hand. Like the games I've started and gone, nah, I can't do it, and stopped before the end. I couldn't do it. But this year, oh boy, this year we played Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope. Now, we don't have footage of this, but the first Mario and Rabbids was amazing. It was as if Nintendo made an XCOM game, and it was a lot of fun. Now, years and years later, part 2 comes out, Sparks of Hope. And I did play it, honestly, I played it for about 70 hours, that's no joke, maybe 80 hours, I wish I could bring up my Switch and see. But it is huge. And it's very clearly, well, the first game was Mario with Rabbids. The sequel is Ubisoft's Rabbids with Mario. The sequel feels like an open world Ubisoft game. The magic of the first one is sort of, it doesn't feel like a Nintendo game, it feels like an Ubisoft game. You can really feel the difference between the first two. So even though I pushed myself to beat Sparks of Hope, once I got to about 80 hours in and I realized there were still like 2 or 3 worlds to go, I was like, I have absolutely had my fill of this, and I turned it off. So shout out to Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope. For the first time in a long time, a game I could not finish. Which brings us to the second game this year. Disney Illusion Island. This is a Mickey Mouse sort of throwback to Castle of Illusion and all of the other sort of classic 2D Mickey Mouse games. And it had a really, really unique art style. And it was the art style that drew me to it. I saw this and I was like, this looks sick, give me this game, I'm going to play this. And it was maybe the simplest game I've ever played. I had heard people had described it as baby's first Metroidvania. I was like, yeah, I like Metroidvanias. I don't care if a game's too easy. If the art style's good, if the music's good, I'll love it. But man, Disney's Illusion Island was a slog. It was quite possibly the simplest game I've ever played. And if you had kids, this is perfect. This is a perfect video game for your children. If you have children, play this game with them. It's perfect. But man, I have never felt that like unchallenged by a game ever, that I just was like, no, I'm not doing this. This is meaningless. I felt like I was just holding down a button and just sort of sitting waiting. So yeah, we gave up on Disney's Illusion Island, which I normally wouldn't have done, but because I had just given up on Mario and Rabbids, I was in a giving up on games kind of mood. I was like, yeah, this feels good. Which brings me to the next game, which is Scorn. I was so gutted that I didn't love Scorn. Everything about this was supposed to be amazing. It was a MC Escher sort of Alien 1 Nightmare combined puzzle game, and it was supposed to be like The Witness or like Mist, but set in like this nightmare world. And for the first hour or two, it was. And I was like, oh boy, this is going to be very high on the list. And then I picked up a little club, and I was like, oh no, this looks like a weapon. And then a horrible little creature came running around the corner, and I was like, oh, there's combat. Why is there combat now? And then I died immediately. And I was like, oh, okay. So I started again, and I went back in, and I realized there wasn't just a wee creature over there, there was a creature back there, so I need to turn around, I need to hit him. So I'm clicking the attack button, and he's doing this terrible attack animation, and I realize this game has really bad combat. There's actually combat in this, and it's really bad. But we wanted to see the puzzles, we wanted to see the weird art, so we pushed on. And then there was more combat, and then there was harder combat, and then they introduced stealth. And I was so sad, because the concept of this game, the way it looks, the way it feels, the puzzles, some of the puzzles involved like, one of the puzzles was like you had to put your own arm in a thing and it cut it off, but it was like, oh, it was so gross, but it was like part of the puzzle, and then the weight of that, there was really cool ideas here. And then they were at the last minute, at some point in development, someone went, what if we added combat and stealth? And nobody stopped them. So I stopped playing. So Scorn, I'm sorry, you could have been amazing. You could have been something, Scorn. But you weren't. Which brings us to our next game. Atomic Heart. Now, Atomic Heart is a sort of weird Russian first-person shooter, which was sort of made as like a parody of America or something. It's very weird, and it plays a bit like BioShock, if BioShock was really not very good. It had terrible writing, terrible characters. The save points were in the weirdest places. Unexplained mechanics. This was a game I played this year and I was so high on because the opening was so good. And then by the end, well, not the end, God, by the end of my time playing it, which might have been like chapter 2 or 3, I was like, this game sucks. I tried so hard to like Atomic Heart, and I failed. I failed to like Atomic Heart. I don't know whose fault that is, but no, thank you. That one got deleted right off the hard drive, never, ever to be played again. Which brings us to our last game. Oh no, wait, sorry, my bad. I actually moved that to another category. Atomic Heart was the last game. So, which means it is time for us. We've looked at the comfort food games. We've looked at the games that are going to move to next year. Stalker, Nine Sols. We've looked at the games we gave up. I can't do this anymore. We've looked at the forever games. It is time for us to rank the list. It's very exciting, y'all. It's very exciting for me to be ranking the list. The world wants to know what are the games on the list. So, we have 32. No, wait. I can't even remember. The first game, I've opened this up just to see how many there are. There are 24 games on the list. At number 24 is Iodine Chronicle Rising. This is the only game I finished this year that I'd say I didn't enjoy playing. Like, it was not a good video game. It felt janky, it felt rushed, it was poorly written. I really am normally not so negative about video games. I really do try to find the things that I love in video games. You're going to see me rank 24 games and maybe like 20 of them I'm going to say, this is one of the best games ever made because I just love video games so much. But unfortunately, Iodine Chronicle Rising was not it. We are going to get to the main game. This is a sort of prequel spin-off to a game called Iodine Chronicles, which is a spiritual successor to the Suikoden games, and we are going to get to it eventually. But this spin-off, the little side game, Iodine Chronicle Rising, left a lot to be desired. I didn't love it. At 23, we have Flintlock Siege of Dawn. This game actually came out this year. This is the first of 5 games that actually came out this year. So if you are only here for the ranking of this year's games, this is number 5 on the list. It's number 5 here. Flintlock Siege of Dawn. This game was supposed to be amazing. I went in with such high expectations. It was a sort of pirate themed, not pirate, but like a sort of swashbuckling, adventure-y type themed, European looking Souls-like. And it looked so cool. I had very high hopes for it. I played it all the way through, and I remember specifically about a quarter of the way through saying to a friend, you have to play Flintlock. It's really cool. The combat's a bit, but I think I'm going to unlock more abilities, and then, that's... And by the end of the game, I remember saying to that same friend, don't play Flintlock. It's not worth it. It is another sort of Dark Souls light. It's just not there. It has some of that From Software magic, a little bit, but it really isn't it really is not in the upper tier of Dark Souls clones, and boy, are there many Dark Souls clones. So, moving on from Flintlock, we reach number 22, Crash Bandicoot. We actually have footage of this one. There's me playing Crash Bandicoot. This was a blast. We played this on stream. We played all 3 Crash Bandicoots on stream. You're going to see them on the list in a second here. The first one was a lot of fun. It is as basic games come, but the level design was awesome. I absolutely loved this area. The game is so accessible, so friendly, so fun, so bright and colourful. Crash is such a doofus. It's just highly enjoyable, and playing it for the first time in, I don't know, like 15 plus years, I was like, this is such a joy. This is when I first got my PlayStation 1 way back. This is one of the 4 games I got with it, and I played it to death back then. It was so cool replaying it this year in the Trilogy Collection. It was awesome. So big shout out to Crash Bandicoot at number 22. Now, on that same theme, at 21 is Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped. This was a lot of fun. This one was a bit more complex than the first one. It was a bit more varied. There was more going on for sure. The bosses weren't as good as you're going to see here. We're just going to reveal it here. At 20, it's Crash Bandicoot 2. Absolutely the best of the 3, in my opinion. We played all 3 of these on stream over a short period of time, and they were a blast. 2 was by far the standout. It had varied levels. It had really cool boss fights. It was the standout among the 3. Now, the third one had crazy levels, way more vehicle levels, unique sort of different mechanics, and it was a bit more involved. And I think I would have put 3 Warped on the top, but some of the bosses were a real letdown. Whereas in 2, the bosses shined. The bosses were an element of 2 that we shouted out on the stream multiple times. This is a good ass boss. So at the end of the day, this here, Crash Bandicoot 2 tops the Crash Bandicoots. So let's return to the list for number 19, which is Toem. Toem was very special. Toem was it's a black and white sort of minimalist photography game where you play as like a little dude who just is going on a little tour. You use the little bus to go between towns, and you have to solve people's problems by taking photos of things. It is a delightful little indie game, and I loved it. It is well worth playing. I think it's maybe 4 or 5 hours long. It is cheap. I'm not sure if the developers have done anything else, but Toem was a delight. And if you've got a few hours, and however much it costs to play Toem, and you're looking for something that isn't shooting and attacking people, Toem is a delight. So at 19 for this year, Toem. Moving on, at number 18 this year, Frog Detective. I bloody loved Frog Detective, okay? There is one thing that video games do not well, and that is comedy. It is hard to do comedy well. It is really hard to do comedy well in a video game. There are obviously games that do comedy really well. The classic Monkey Islands and things like that. Now, there are games that do comedy a lot, like the Borderlands games, where it's more like the shotgun approach of comedy, where it's a million jokes and some of them are going to hit and some of them aren't. There's obviously games that are like intelligently funny and witty. And then there's sort of goofy funny games like the old Monkey Island games. But Frog Detective is a straight up comedy game with amazing comedy writing. It is a point and click, but don't let that fool you. It's a point and click in the sense that, like, one of the characters asks you to go get all the bread, and then around the village there's a few slices of bread, and they're just like stuck to people's heads or on the wall or whatever. There's no real puzzles to solve. It's just the absurdity of the game with how seriously the characters take what's going on, and you just play as this frog who's the second best detective in the world. His office is right next door to the first best detective in the world, and it is hilariously funny. Very short, 3 episodes, they're all on Game Pass. I strongly recommend playing Frog Detective if you're just looking for something funny. Just a good laugh. Frog Detective is your one. At 17, Spyro the Dragon. We loved Spyro on this stream. We've got it here. This is us playing Spyro 1. Spyro was... It kind of blew me away. I didn't expect to play... You know, we had just played the Crash Bandicoot games, and they were a lot of fun. But as you saw, they're further down the list. They were a cool sort of time capsule. But we played Spyro 1 on stream, and I was taken aback. These are games I missed as a child. I never played these, and I couldn't believe how much fun I had with Spyro 1. This is like a top-tier 3D platformer. It is really basic, like really basic. You go into these small 3D levels, you collect the things, you watch all the numbers go up. It's a collectathon, but it's smooth, it moves well. This was in the remaster, so for all I know, the original is janky and terrible, but the remaster of 1 was really good. Like I said, very basic, but for a 3D platformer from that time, it is awesome, and I should have played this when I was younger. So, 19. Nope, sorry. My bad. 17, Spyro the Dragon. At 16, we have Dead Space. We played this on stream. It took us a long time. But we did play Dead Space. Let's bring that up. Here it is here. This is us on the old setup playing Dead Space. Now, full disclosure, this almost didn't make the list because I had completed this years and years and years ago when it first came out. But this remaster, I was playing in over a decade. It has been rebuilt. People were saying the game had been rebuilt. It's new dialogue, the ship is now... In the original, you were only certain bits of the ship were open at certain times. In this, you could really go explore the whole thing the whole time. It was enough of a difference that I was like, okay, this makes the list. And even though it does feel its age a bit, there's been a lot of great horror games that came out and were inspired by the original Dead Space. This remake was still awesome. It was insanely scary. The people on the stream saw me get genuinely scared. It was just so fun. So yeah, a big shout out to the Dead Space that almost didn't make it onto the list, but it was too good not to, and we had a great time playing it. So Dead Space, thank you. You were very scary at number 16. Now, we're on at 15, the top 15. Here we go. At number 15, oh, I'm having it. At number 15 is Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage. We had a hell of a time playing Spyro 2. It is everything the first one did well, the second one did better. Everything. The second one introduced a bunch of characters that were super weird, and my understanding is they are the characters that become iconic, like they live on through the series. We didn't play 3, we've still got Spyro 3 to play, but Spyro 2, we actually lost the videos, so I've got no footage to show you. I could show you me playing more of Spyro 1 if you want, but we actually lost all the footage of Spyro 2, which is unfortunate, so we love Spyro 2. It was 1, but better. Bigger, open areas, better design, more to do. It was just better in a lot of ways. So Spyro 2 at number 15. Moving on. Number 14. Super Mario RPG. This game is very, very old. This is one of the oldest games we have on the list. It came out in 1992, maybe? 93? It is a old school RPG made by Square Enix. They got the rights to Mario. I don't know how. This is the one game they made. It spawned from it the Mario and Luigi RPG series. It spawned from it the Paper Mario series, which were both Nintendo products. But this was a Square Enix. The Final Fantasy devs made this Mario game way back in the day. It got remastered. We played the remaster, and it was fantastic. I loved it. It ended up being a little dull by the end because the combat, you know, it's old school 1990s turn-based combat. It is slow, it is deliberate. I love that stuff. I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan, but by the end of Super Mario RPG, I was ready for it to be over. But while I was playing it, I had the time of my life. And shout out to the fact that it is jam-packed full of secrets. Every area has some secret, and every area has like a hidden boss that you have to come back later with different knowledge and different items. It is infinitely sort of, if you like looking for secrets in your RPGs, Mario RPG is one of the best, and it is like 40 years old. So, at number 13, we have Octopath Traveler 2. I spent like 150 hours playing this game this year. It is awesome. Speaking of turn-based RPGs, Octopath Traveler is one that does it right. The combat is so fun because all the enemies have these little question marks under them. You've got to sort of piece together what they're weak to by doing different attacks to them, and your reward for that is in future fights when you fight something that shares traits, these will already be revealed what this enemy's weak to. It is a great system. The writing was better than the first one. The art is obviously beautiful. The Octopath Traveler games, if you haven't seen them, are freaking beautiful. So yeah, a huge shout out to Octopath Traveler 2. I put in an absurd amount of time. I did all the side stuff. I think I've still got a few things to do to get 100%, but Octopath Traveler 2 was fantastic. I loved playing through that game. The time just disappeared. I remember the first time I checked how long I had been playing it for, and it said it had been like 40 hours or something. And I was like, that's impossible. But it wasn't. I was just in love with this RPG. So major shout out to Octopath Traveler 2. I'm not sure what year it came out, but we played it this year and we loved it a lot this year. At number 12 is Astro's Playroom. Let's be clear, this isn't Astrobot, the new one that everyone's going crazy about. This is Astro's Playroom. I got a PS5 this year, and Astro's Playroom is a small demo that is built in to the PS5. I almost didn't put it on the list because it's like technically not even really like a full game, but I loved it so much, and it skyrocketed my excitement for Astro Ball, which I've still not played. That will be next year. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. So exciting, so lovely, so charming, so full of heart. I was blown away by Astro's Playroom, and it gave me all the faith in the world that Astrobot was going to be amazing. Like before Astrobot came out, I was like, we don't need to worry, the game's going to be amazing. And then sure enough, it was. That Astro's Playroom, if you ever get the chance to play on a PS5, this game is built in. Play this game. It is so much fun. It is a love letter to Sony, and it is just magic. Definitely worth playing Astro's Playroom. Now, at number 11, this is it before the top 10. This is it. At number 11, we have Cuphead. I love this game. It was so close to making the top 10. Here's me playing Cuphead on the stream. We had such a good time playing Cuphead. I can't even express. Let me get a drink here. We had such a good time playing Cuphead on stream. We have actually lost the final part of Cuphead, so I'm going to need to go back and replay it someday. But this game, again, almost didn't make the list because I did play a lot of it like when it first came out, but it was only in co-op and we never finished the game. So since this time I played it solo and I did finish the game, it made the list, and boy oh boy did it almost make the top 10. This is a fantastic game. No wonder people were raving about it when it first came out. Obviously, the biggest thing about it, not just that the bosses are so well designed and that the bosses are so genuinely fun to fight, it's how magical the art is. Like, every boss has these unique attacks. You're seeing them here. Unique attacks and different versions of themselves they turn into. There's so much love and care put into the art. It is unbelievable. I could just sit and watch this game over and over and over again. I have never known what this art style was called, but I've seen it referred to, and it's being called out in the chat here, that this is a rubber hose art style. Give me 50 more games in this art style, please. This game kicks ass. It's not just that the art is beautiful, it is that the game feels so good to play. There's 2 or 3 buttons. It's a very simple game, but my God, is it done very, very well. So yeah, without question, Cuphead is the number 11 game, very close to making the top 10. Speaking of which, it is time for the top 10 of the year. Let's move you. Where will we just put you over? Yeah, let's just put you over here or something. Yeah, we'll put that over. I wish it was on top of the camera. Maybe we just get rid of it. You know what? Maybe we just get rid of this. I hadn't thought this far through. Bear with me. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time. Are you ready for the top 10 games of the year that didn't come out this year, just games that I played this year? Whoa! Hold on. Yeah! Okay, here goes. At number 10, Botany Manor. This is the best puzzle game I played this year. This is a fantastic little puzzle game. Without a doubt, you give me a good puzzle game, it's going to be high on my list every single time. But you give me one like this, that's polished, that has good, simple writing, really well done puzzles, a theme across all of the puzzles. This is Lara Croft's Manor from the old Tomb Raider games, but as a first-person puzzle game. Botany Manor was so good. And it also came out this year. So that's, if you're keeping track of, you only want me to rank the games that actually came out in 2024, then in fifth place was a Siege. I've forgotten the name of it. Hang on. In fifth place was Flintlock Siege of Dawn. And in fourth place for the year, Botany Manor. If all you care about is this year's rankings, we've got 5 games that came out this year, and number 4, Botany Manor. But on our list of this year, it's number 10. Play Botany Manor. It's on Game Pass. It is really worth playing. It is a great puzzle game. At number 9, we have Mafia, the Definitive Edition. This game rocked. This game surprised the crap out of me. Here it is here. We put this on stream because one of our chatters kept bringing up Mafia, and I was like, you know what, it's on the list, let's play it. I couldn't believe how much fun I had. I'm not a huge fan of your big open world games. I'm sort of sick to death of them. So I wasn't ready for how good this would be. I was expecting to just be driving from A to B. But instead we were playing this genuine, great narrative full of believable, likable characters. I had no idea the voice acting was so good. I assume it was still all the same voice acting from the original Mafia. Or it maybe wasn't, and it was voice acting, new voice acting for the game. I don't think that's the case. I'm pretty sure it was from the original. Obviously, this definitive edition had updated graphics, and I think they had tweaked some of the gameplay stuff. But in general, the performances, the graphics were insane, but the performances were amazing. The writing was actually believable. I felt sorry for the characters. There are so many games that get away with having bad writing. There are so many games that are just, the gameplay is good enough, the gameplay is awesome, and people don't even realize that the writing isn't very good. But this game was written so freaking well. Suddenly the Mafia series went from something I'm not that interested in to something we are absolutely going to play all the rest of on stream. This game blew me away this year. And by the end, I was almost in tears. By the time the credits were rolling, I was sitting here holding back tears like, I can't believe we just went through that. It was a real journey. So huge freaking shout out to Mafia Definitive Edition. The number 9 game of 2024, but games I played, not games that came out, all right? You know how it works. You've been here long enough. At number 8, we have Roller Drome. This game blew me away, really blew me away. In almost every aspect that a game can blow you away, this game did. Roller Drome here, there I am with long hair playing Roller Drome. Roller Drome immediately caught my eye with the art style, obviously, right? It's a pixel art, sorry, not pixel art, it's like a cel-shaded kind of unique, I don't even know, I don't have the art words to describe how good this game looks. This video doesn't even do it justice. The game is beautiful, and that's what drew me in. Immediately we discovered that we were playing not only a Tony Hawk's game, not only Tony Hawk, Desert Wasteland, but it was also a sort of quick time, hyperactive shooter where each enemy you had to use different types of weapons to take out different enemies, you had challenges to do, the levels were beautiful, and it's all encased in this, perfectly well-timed and well-placed narrative of these corporations running these dangerous events and the people inside trying to fight back and push back. And it's a deep, sort of really quite well-written tale told all in environmental storytelling. The story can be entirely missed. There are just first-person scenes between the levels where you're allowed to just walk out to the arena. But if you choose not to walk out to the arena, you can look in people's lockers, you can read notes, you can understand and learn about the world, and the developers have put stuff there so that you can really understand and learn about the world. It is so cool. I love environmental storytelling. I love a story that isn't in your face, that you can look for. You have to dig for the story. And this game has that. It's really cool. I am very impressed. And as you can see here, the gameplay just kicks ass. Like, you're playing this smooth Tony Hawk skating game. The enemies are well placed enough that you are just constantly... Tricks get you ammo. Ammo kills enemies. Then you do tricks to get ammo. It's this constant repeating cycle where you have to be doing new tricks to be getting up your ammo. Excellent. Excellent game. This almost made it even higher. This was almost in the top 5. I had to think long and hard. This game almost made it to the top 5. Now, let's get back to the list here. At number 7, we have Chants of Sennaar. This game came out of nowhere, okay? This was a game that came out a few years ago, maybe last year or the year before, and people I respected said, you gotta play Chants of Sennaar. You've got to play this game. And I ignored it. I'll get to it. And then this year, we finally got to Chants of Sennaar. And my God, it is where Botany Manor at number 10 on the list is a puzzle game that anyone can play, a puzzle game that's sort of open and free, and you can walk around and look at the books. You're trying to grow plants. Botany Manor is a very safe, lovely, well-made puzzle game that you could show to your mother or your grandmother, and let's grow some plants together. This game is a hardcore puzzle game about language. It is hard, it is complex, and it is not afraid to not hold your hand at all and just say, on you go, you do it, you get it, you'll figure it out. I love games about language. I love anything about learning new languages. The gamification of learning languages is something that's in a few games, and it is, when done well, my God, is it done well. And this one does it with symbols and pictures, and you've got to sort of piece together, you know, the perfect example I can give you of how much this game, how amazing this game is one of the first characters you come across is someone who is clearly homeless. He looks disheveled, he's sitting on the floor, he has a little bowl in front of him. And he has a little sign that says 2 words, and you've no idea what those 2 words are, but you see him and he's helpless and you can't do anything because you can't speak his language. And later on, when the game loops you back to there, you have now learned enough words that you can see that he's saying, help me. The 2 words are, help me. And so now, because he has a help me, you can help him. And later on, way later on, when you come back there, if you pay attention, you realise that no longer is he saying, help me, he's saying, me help. You go, oh, they're switched around, what's going on? And you go and you speak to him, and sure enough, he has something to give you. And you'd only know that if you had learned the words and gone back and spoken to him. Some of the languages here, that is another thing actually that I need to bring up, is that you're learning this language and then all of a sudden you realise that there's not just one language in the game. You get to the second area and suddenly there are multiple languages to learn. And it's not just that each area has their own language, it's that each language has its own syntax. The sentence, I am hungry, isn't the same in each of those languages. It's like real life. Some of those languages, it's I am hungry, possessive, hungry. But in the second language you learn, it would be more of a I, hungry. Just simple, basic, I, hungry. You'd get it wrong if you put the am. That's not how they speak. And by the end of the game, the fancy pants languages of the people who live on the upper of the spire. It's all a tale of class. The people who live at the top of the spire, they all speak like Yoda. They're all like, hungry I am. Danger you are. So you're trying to decipher these languages while each of the different classes of people on the tower who dislike each other, who make each other work for each other, who kill each other, they're all speaking in their own unique languages at each other, and it is just this other world. You are dropped in another world, and it is so freaking cool. If you like puzzle games, you like having to think, play Chants of Sennaar, and obviously, as you can see, it's kind of beautiful. It looks beautiful. The one downside is that this isn't just a pure puzzle game. There are stealth sections. There are sections where it's like, oh, you have to run past here, or you get pushed off the ledge. It's a little bit like you're running around. It's almost platformy, but not really. And it's just, if they had just stuck to the puzzles, I would have preferred it more. I'm sure people would have probably liked it the way it is. You know, you're a bit more involved. It's a bit more user friendly. But for me, if we just did away with all of the stealth sections, the stealth sections were the really hard parts where you're not thinking, you're just playing a weird stealth game. It is odd. As you can see here, yeah, the language is just so, it's amazing. And you're putting all the words in your book here, ticking them off as you learn them. The game gives you this sort of satisfying, like, click into place when you have actually learned a word properly. It is just brilliant. Strong recommend Chants of Sennaar. Anyway, that's enough. That's enough of that. Let's get back. Number 6 on our rank in the list 2024 is Super Mario Wonder. I played this year. It actually came out a few years ago. Maybe it was only last year. Well, no. Last year would be the year before. I think it maybe came out in 2023. Or maybe 22. Let's get a drink. I'm dehydrating myself talking so much. The awards are just so exciting, you know? Right, so Super Mario Wonder, we don't have footage of me playing this. I won't linger on it long. I actually didn't love it as much as I've loved a lot of other Mario games. There was some of the Mario charm was missing from Mario Wonder. I sort of had to force myself to finish it a little bit. But the fact is, a Mario game made by Nintendo is an extremely high quality game every single time. So even though Wonder doesn't hold up to the likes of Mario World or Mario 3, it is still a very well polished, very well made game. And the fact that every level has its own unique mechanics, every level has its own new sort of idea of what the game is, very impressive. Very, you know, the developers said after the game came out that basically no ideas were off the table. Anybody in the building who wanted to come up with an idea for a level, they will do it. And the game shows that. There are so many unique ideas that are only in one level and then they're gone. But that one level is amazing fun. So yes, while for me personally, Super Mario Wonder, when I think about it in the long run, it does not hold up to the all-time Mario greats. But just by being a Mario game made by Nintendo, it is extremely good. And I had a blast playing it, even though, yes, by the end I was like, I've had my fill of this. But that's on me for always wanting the 100% games. You know, I 100%ed the crap out of Mario Wonder. I'm sure if I had just played it through, I might not have got so sick of it. But by the end, I was ready for it to be over. But upon reflection, you know, it really is just a fantastic Nintendo game. And we probably get a sequel to that with the Switch 2 coming out. Anyway, it's time for our top 5 of 2024. If you've noticed, we only have 2 games so far that came out this year. Flintlock Siege of Dawn and Botany Manor. There are still 3 games that came out this year, and spoiler alert, they're all in the top 5. I think. Let me just double check that is actually the case. Yes, that is the case. Okay, cool. We just gotta make sure. Okay, so let me just make sure I've got everything going on here. I'm just double checking. Yeah, okay. We're just making sure things are working. Okay. Our top 5 of the year, 2024. At number 5, a game that is very special to me and for a moment was number 1 before I had to bring myself back down to reality. At number 5 is another Crab's Treasure. I'm actually going to bring up a trailer for this because this game was unbelievable. This game was pitched as, so it's Dark Souls, but you are a crab. And it sounded too weird to be true. And you know what? It was Dark Souls, but you were a crab. And it was really bloody good. Like, really, really exceptionally good. Let's bring up the trailer here. I'm just going to let this play while I talk, but Another Crab's Treasure was this beautiful sort of artistic, it wasn't beautiful, but it was very art style heavy sort of Souls-like, where you play as a crab. And the entire premise is to try to sort of save the crab kingdom, okay? But your weapon is your shell. You're putting different things on your shell. Party hats. The world's crabbiest Souls-like. That's what they called it. You are putting party hats and shotgun shells and the sails off a boat. You see this boss here is holding a tea strainer, but she's using it as a mace. The world and the ideas in it are endlessly clever. The weapons some of the enemies have are bloody genius. There's a character who lives in a milk carton. There is just so much intent behind making this game be the most sort of weird under the sea crab game in the world, but it plays like Dark Souls. It is amazing. I truly, truly could not believe how much Another Crab's Treasure blew me away. And no spoilers, okay? No spoilers. But what really sealed the deal for Another Crab's Treasure is that it has a... If you know, you know. It has a sort of Bloodborne moment where halfway through the game, what you thought was going on and what you could see and what the game was shifts. And you see the world differently. And in the second half of the game, it's another... that I will say no more. But Another Crab's Treasure took a big swing halfway through the game to be like Bloodborne. No spoilers, but it was very cool and it was very well done. And by the time I finished Another Crab's Treasure, it's maybe the number 1 or number 2 Souls-like that isn't made by From Software. It's fantastic. It's weird, it's janky, it is bizarre. Play Another Crab's Treasure. And if you're paying attention, if you're watching, that's number 3 on the games that actually came out this year list. Flintlock, Botany Manor, Another Crab's Treasure. We have 2 more games that came out this year. You probably know what they are. Okay. At number 4, we have Sifu. We played Sifu this year, and I think you're supposed to... Oh no, the audio's on this. Hang on now. We played Sifu this year. Here we are playing Sifu this year. I couldn't stop playing Sifu this year. This was the first game that we played on stream. I've got this divide of sort of like, it's a game I play on stream or it's not a game I play on stream. Sifu was the first game that I was like, I have to play it all the time. I have to play it when we're not streaming. I'm just doing runs and runs of Sifu. Oh, I've got a mustache in that video. That's awful. Check that out. There we go. Sifu is a sort of roguelike combat game where you're avenging your family member's death, you're taking down this whole family, and each run you die, you age. You actually age, and eventually you die of old age. And if you die of old age before the game ends, too bad, you start again. And it's this process of repeating the earlier levels mastering where the enemies come from, what weapons you can pick up, so that you can maybe hit the next level at the age of 35. So then maybe if you beat that level, you'll be 50. And then that saves that the youngest you are when you beat a level, that's permanent saves. So the goal, of course, is eventually you want to try and beat all the levels without losing any lives at all, but that's ridiculous. So the first time I tried the final boss, I was an old lady, and we had a battle of the olds, and it was so cool because you go back, you replay the older levels, and the next time you come to that boss, you're 40 something, 48 or something, and the fight's faster, your character is faster. And as you can see here, the combat is slick. That's obviously what the game does exceptionally well, is the combat. That is what the game is the combat. But more than that, it's the placement of the enemies and the items. There's an amazing scene really early on in a nightclub where there's a bottle here, there's a baseball bat here, and there's like 3 guys. And you can go in and you can kick the bottle to one guy and then sort of hit the other one in the leg so they goes down. While he's reaching for the baseball bat, you can sweep him, take the bat, the other guy's gotten up and picked up the now broken bottle, so you throw the bat at him. It all just chains together in this kinetic sort of never-ending cycle of hitting well-dressed people with your elbows and knees. It is exceptionally fun. We played through this multiple times on stream. I could not get enough of Sifu. I'm not sure what year it came out. The developers of this game have announced they're making a football game. It's going to be this type of combat, but like for kicking a football around a field. I cannot understand it. I'm extremely excited for it. Huge love to a game that, again, at one point was in the top 3. We love Sifu in this house. The top three games we played this year. At number 3, a game I finished just around midnight on New Year's Eve. It almost didn't make it onto the list. It almost got carried over to next year. A game that did come out this year, and a game that I played over Christmas and New Year without stopping. Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. This game is pure magic. I love the Zelda games. I've played every single Zelda game there has ever been. Maybe bar 1 or 2, but I've played them all. And what Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom does is it takes the modern Zelda open world mechanics sort of integrating with each other from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and it implements it in the old school top-down grid-based Zelda games, like your, Link to the Past and all those kind of games. And you play as Zelda, which is pretty cool. It's the first time you play as Zelda, So you are in this classic top-down Zelda, but the map's open. And you can sort of go anywhere and do anything, and much like Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, you've got this freedom to complete the rooms and the puzzles however you want. A lot of the time, you're solving a puzzle going like, this is absolutely not the way I'm supposed to do this, but I did it. I strapped a box to a balloon, and then I put like a spider thing on it so it was sticky, and then I stuck myself to it, and eventually we just ballooned away. And it's not the way to get up there, but it worked. And it's so charming, it's so endearing. The music is just delightful. They do not mess with the Zelda games. They really don't mess. Well, except for Spirit Tracks, but that's another story, They do not mess with the Zelda games. So a huge shout out to our number 3, which blew me away over Christmas and New Year. And just to be clear, the final hour of Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom is the coolest thing that has ever happened in any of the Zelda games. The last hour of this game is bonkers. And I hope that the sequel to this game is just the last hour the game. It's very cool, but we'll say no more on that. At number 2, a game that came out last year. Oh, also, Echoes of Wisdom came out this year. So that's number 2 of the 5 that came out this year. That's at number 2, second place on the games that came out this year. Echoes of Wisdom. Now, at number 2, a game that came out last year. But we finished this year and made me cry like a baby. It is Final Fantasy 16. This game is like no other game I've ever played. It is... I'm a diehard Final Fantasy fan. I am a diehard Final Fantasy fan. And 16 is the first one in... ever, maybe? To really take the lineage of Final Fantasy very seriously. It's not a silly game. There's not Moogles and fishing and other stuff like that. It is a serious Final Fantasy with something to say. It is heartfelt, and the characters are honestly some of the best written characters that the series has ever seen, that video games has ever seen. I adore this game. The hype for it was unreal for me. The hype for this game was beyond compare, honestly. And when it finally came out and it delivered, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. We've got it up on the screen here. Final Fantasy 16 is a love letter to the original Final Fantasies. It is a basic story of people's rights and people's freedoms, the haves and have-nots. You know, it is a classic tale as old as time. But Final Fantasy tells it with a Final Fantasy skin over it. It's this Game of Thrones inspired tale of a man who's been given a terrible fate and wants to fight against it. It's just an inspirational piece of storytelling. Now, that doesn't even begin to tell you how beautiful the game is. There's breathtaking scenes in this game. Some of the vistas, some of the boss fights are astounding. Some of the coolest things I've ever seen in video games happen in this video game. 16 is magical. The characters, the way they interact with each other, the heart that comes through in their lines, the voice actors are fantastic. The writing is fantastic. There is very little I could say negatively about Final Fantasy 16. The game is fantastic. To keep using the same word, it's fantastic. However, there are far too many side quests. There are maybe 100 too many side quests. Now, the problem is that some of the best content in the game is in the side quests. So you're in an area here with this game where there are far too many side quests. There's a whole heap of side quests. You've got a big bag full of side quests. And some of them, that one and maybe this one here, are really deep and really good and enrich the characters and their stories. They give you permanent unlocks. They help you with fast travel and with camping and with all sorts of things. But they're just in the sea of side quests. They're in there. So there is a bit of an issue there. There is a bit of a strange back and forth where the game has an insane number of side quests, and some of them are some of the best content in the world, and some of them are like, well, you go kill 25 sheep. So it's hard to get into the side content, but the main stuff, the main game is flawless. And one big shout out that I will always bring up and will come up again in a moment is that the audio in this game, the music is amazing. It is one of the greatest soundtracks for a game I've ever heard. It's heart-wrenching. It is pure magic. So yes, if you haven't, go and play Final Fantasy 16 if that's your cup of tea. It is a very serious Game of Thrones inspired iteration of the Final Fantasy story, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It will make you cry. If you play Final Fantasy 16 and you don't cry, you let me know. There's something up. So here it is. The #1 game of the year. And yes, it came out this year. And yes, if you know me at all, there was no doubt that this was going to be the game of the year. It's only the best game ever made, remade. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Of course it is. Of course it is. This game, it's not about how good the game is. It is about how special it is about what it means to the original game that this game exists. This is so far beyond any of the other games on the list for me. It's almost hard to judge. This was always going to be the game of the year, even if it sucked for me, because I grew up playing 7 over and over and over again. And then Remake came out. We saw it earlier. It's one of my comfort food games that I play every year since it came out. And they blew it away. It was fantastic. So sure enough, a year or two later, when the sequel here came out, Rebirth, it had very high expectations. And the combat was fantastic. I'll tell you right now that this is the best combat system in video games. Full stop. Find me a better combat system than this game. It's perfect. It's perfect. Never mind the fact that it is a heartfelt, true retelling of the original Final Fantasy VII in such a unique way. It isn't just the original retold A to B, and it isn't just some shitty spin-off. It is a woven in different tale from the original game in a way that I wouldn't have been smart enough to think of. This game is far beyond what any fan could ever have asked for in a remake. It's pure nostalgia. It's pure nostalgia. Is Final Fantasy XVI a better game? Maybe, but am I completely and utterly blinded by the magic and the nostalgia of this game? Yes, I am. This is fantastic. And when part 3 comes out, we are going to play it on stream for about 500 hours, so prepare for that. So, a massive, massive, infinite shout out to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. One of the best pieces of content I have ever played. It is better than the first one in every way. A huge, beautiful open world, stunning graphics, insane boss fights, and truly the best soundtrack that has ever been made for a game. Like, the effort that went into making the audio for this game is beyond anything any other game has ever done. This has maybe 10 times more audio tracks than any other game ever made. There will likely be a documentary made about how they made the music for this game. Look it up. It is fantastic. I could go on for days. I really could go on for days and days about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. But we won't. We won't. We will get back to the list here. No, we will get back to the list here. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the list. Let's transition over here for a second. Is this going to work? Oops, hold on. Let's get rid of this. Hang on. Let's get rid of these. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, let me fix my tie. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching the first annual Game of the Year, aka Ranking the List 2024. Thank you for being here. Hang on, let me just get rid of these. There we go. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. If you're watching this later on YouTube, thank you for being here and watching as well. Please click the buttons. You guys are the best. We will be back next year